What you need to think about if you're thinking of selling your house. Okay, so as I film this, it's October 2023. It's a very different market than the past few years. You may be thinking, Jen, I've sold a house before. It's easy. Yeah, this is a different market, guys. There's very few parts of the country now where you stick a sign out and you get 46 offers over asking. We are now back in many parts of the country to a normal market. A normal market means that as a seller, you actually need a real estate agent that's going to represent your property correctly in order to get you the most money. Okay, now for anyone who doesn't know me, I am a mortgage lender, not a real estate agent, but we're going to be covering some real estate stuff and some mortgage stuff. Now, the reason I'm covering both is because people come to me to get pre-approved to buy their next house, and I love it. And sometimes what I'm seeing right now especially is I'm seeing that the house they're trying to sell isn't selling. And some of it's really obvious as to why it's not selling, and it could have been avoided, okay? So first things first, I'm gonna make some enemies. Just because you liked the agent that sold you the house doesn't mean they're the right agent to represent you selling the house. Yeah, it's a different ball game, okay? So for instance, if I was selling my house in California, there's one agent I would use. The reason I would use that agent is because their listings get the highest prices. Now, is that the same agent I would use if I was buying? No, their listings get the highest prices. When I'm buying, I want the person who's going to negotiate the hardest to get the house as cheaply as possible. But if I'm selling, I want the agent that's going to get me top dollar. And the way that this team gets top dollar is by marketing, okay? So look, you guys, when you're selling your house, whether it's a terrible agent or the best in the business, you are generally going to pay the same. Yeah, there's no discounts for this agent that sucks. There's none. You pay them the same, so get your money's worth, okay? So what would I be looking at? Pictures. I would be looking at the pictures that the agent has done in the past on other houses. You know, if I didn't know any real estate agents in the area and I was like, I don't know if my buyer's agent's good at selling, you know, I would be looking in your neighborhood. Whose pictures, whose description, when you go online, look at what's for sale. Which ones do you look at and you go, I want to live there, okay? Which ones do you read and you go, wow, that sounds great, okay? People discount this and they think, oh, it's just the realtors just put it up. You know, there's no big difference between real estate agents. Guys, there's a huge difference between real estate agents. So like the market in California that I'm talking about, the agent that I would use if I ever sold that property, she's known to get higher prices for properties. And when you look at her pictures and her descriptions, it's amazing, right? But the key is she also believes they're worth that. Right? There's another agent that does a ton of business, but they think that everything's overpriced. So when they're trying to sell a house, they never fully believe it's worth what they have it listed at, okay? If you're a buyer, great agent. If you're a seller, you want this one, okay? And that's the thing. You want someone who believes that your property is what they have listed it at. Now, is this one just making up prices? No, she's looking at comparable sales. She's looking at what's happened in the market. She looks at the finishes of the house. She looks at the way the house looks. How much can she get for it based on that? She's not just doing a high price based on nothing. And that's something you have to watch out for as well. Would I ever list my house with a real estate agent that didn't have any idea of what had sold similar in the past 6 to 12 months? No, because here's the thing. If I say to someone, I'm just making up numbers, I want $2 million, right? And the agent says, great, let's do it. But all the houses like my house sold for $500,000, I'm not gonna get $2 million. Even if I somehow, by like a magical beam, got a sucker in that was saying they would pay that, the appraisal's gonna destroy it. Okay, so you'd basically need a sucker with all cash if there's no comparable sales. There's not a lot of those out there right now, guys. So you really want to make sure that you're working with an agent that's going to provide comparable sales so that you know what to expect with a realistic price. You want to make sure they're going to be using professional photography, and look, if your price point is lower, sometimes they're not going to have a professional photographer, but they should have a professional camera. And when I say lower, I don't mean 400,000. I mean like 80,000, okay? But even then, I'm seeing agents have professional photographers. It makes a difference, right? Like if you think about a diamond ring, let's think about a diamond ring. If I take a picture of a diamond ring, there, bloop, bloop, with my iPhone in a dark room, what's it gonna look like? It's gonna look like crap. Whereas if I take a picture, if Tiffany's is taking a picture and they have the right lighting on the diamonds and it's glittering, you're gonna pay so much more, right? Same thing with houses. So number one, you guys have to look at how these real estate agents are marketing properties. I would be looking for the agent that's consistently getting the highest dollar. And sometimes you have to be ready to take their feedback. And sometimes I'll hear from real estate agents, yeah, like I could have sold it for way more, but they wouldn't listen to me. So what do they mean they wouldn't listen to me? Generally, it's around clutter. Always around clutter. So it could be like, for instance, the house that I have in California, I got a great deal on it. You know why I got a great deal on it? They wouldn't stage the house. Their furniture made no sense in the house. They had some really outdated wall colors, and had they actually painted the walls white and staged the house, they would have gotten $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 more. No joke. No joke, guys. No joke. So really be receptive to what the real estate agent is saying. Now, if it's an agent where like you can't see that they've ever sold a house before, take it with a grain of salt. But if you're talking to a real estate agent where it's clear this person sells a lot of houses, they do it beautifully, they're getting, great prices for these houses, the way they write it up is professional, this looks great, I want to live in the houses they sell, take what they say seriously. Okay. And sometimes it's as simple as putting away family photos. If you cook really pungent food, onions, there's fish, like you don't think about it, but you might have fish on a Saturday night and then you've got an open house on Sunday. Your house probably isn't going to smell good, right? But there's all these little things that you need to consider when you're a seller, and sellers haven't had to consider that for the last few years because the market was so hot. They could just blink and the house had 1 billion offers and they were rolling in money, but that is changing. So you really need to pay attention to these things. So the real estate agent you pick is so critical. Marketing needs to be dialed in, description needs to be dialed in, the photos, the game plan, are there open houses, are there not open houses? What's interesting about open houses is most houses actually don't sell from an open house. Generally, open houses are more to help the real estate agent grow their business. So if you don't want to do open houses, I don't think you have to, personally, because anyone who's seriously interested in your property, if you've got good photos, if you've got a good description, they're going to make an appointment to see your home. I've sat in on a lot of open houses over my 15 years, and I can tell you, most of the time, it's the real estate agent and the lender. We bring cookies or orange juice, whatever, right? Like some people do really fancy stuff now. And it's all the neighbors. It's always the neighbors. The neighbors are always coming through. They want to see what you're up to. They want to see how you design the house. If you're in a neighborhood that has a bunch of similar homes, they want to see if you did a better job with it. Sometimes you'll get a serious buyer, but a lot of times it's the neighbors or it's someone that already made an appointment and they're checking out the house again. So just know that, because sometimes I'll hear, from sellers, oh, well, I want the real estate agent to do 2 open houses a week and they'll only do one once every other week. Guys, generally your buyer's not going to be from an open house. I actually can't think of a time. I did open houses, the first 10 years of my career, every Sunday I was in an open house. I can't think of one where the buyer was from that open house. So You know, who knows, but just keep that in mind. Okay, the other thing is commission, right? Can you negotiate a real estate agent's commission? Yeah, you can, you know, and there's actually some lawsuits around that right now, like how real estate agents present what the commissions should be. So definitely look into all of that. Personally, you know, this is my personal opinion, guys, so there's no wrong or right to this. I would have the best listing agent I could. And if the difference is I can have a listing agent that's not that great at 2% or a great listing agent at 3%, I'm gonna pay more. I am, because I know they're gonna get me more. It's that simple. But if the agent wasn't great, I wouldn't list my house with them, period. Okay? I can't stress that enough. Like, just because you liked them when they sold you the house does not mean they're the right person to sell your house. Sorry, real estate agents. They're going to be so mad about this, but it's true. Okay, so what else? Okay, so it's okay to interview a couple real estate agents. You should know that. So a lot of people are intimidated by real estate agents, and they can be a little scary. Like, as a lender, I can tell you, some of them are not lovely. And look, if they're wretched when you're going through that interview process, don't hire them. Don't hire them. Like, you're going to have to talk to this person a lot. You know, you're going to want feedback. You're going to have a lot of emotions when you're selling your house. There's a lot of stress that goes through selling your house. Like, when do you pack? Is this offer real? Why isn't it selling? Is the price right? Should we do a price drop? There's so much that goes into it. You need to make sure that any real estate agent you're hiring, you're comfortable with. Okay, and that doesn't mean that they're like a dog you can kick, because there is a certain personality where they just want to boss everyone around, and I actually don't think that's very smart, because the people that I know that are really good at their jobs, they're not going to just get bossed around. They're going to do their job. You're hiring them because they're professional. It'd be like me telling my dentist how to put a crown on my tooth. That's a bad idea. Same thing with real estate. Okay, if you get a professional, let them do their job. Okay, but you need to be comfortable with them. You need to make sure you're comfortable with the communication. Now, if you're working with a team, would you always be working with the head person? Probably not. You know, you may have team members that give you details like, hey, we're going to do an open house on Sunday. You know, we're going to be there at XYZ time, or this or that, the photographer. You know, if you're getting your house staged, the stager, all of that stuff probably won't be the head person if you're working with a team. That's okay, okay? The main person, the head person, the listing agent star, you want them for their marketing ability and their negotiating ability. That's what you want them for. You don't need them to do the, you know, it's not busy work, but you don't want them to do the stuff that anyone could do. Their job's to negotiate and present your house in the best light, okay? Okay, some other considerations. Staging. Now, look, this is a very personal video. The last house I sold, I did have it staged. And look, my style is very clean to begin with, you know, white couches, everything's white, right? I'm afraid of color. And I did pay to have the property staged. And the reason I did that is because I've seen it over the years. A good stager can make a huge difference in how much you get for the house. Now, if you're living in the house, that's more challenging. But sometimes an empty house is going to sell for less than if you actually have it staged. And the reason is that people need help visualizing. You know, you may be like, well, can't they just visualize it? Look, I'm going to be real honest here. Houses, like, if you walk into a house and you want to live there, you're more likely to buy it. If you walk into a house and you're like, I don't know, would a king bed fit there? Is that a queen? I don't know, can we fit a nightstand? It can be harder for people to visualize. So it also depends on price point and your own budget. Like, let's say you are in the jumbo category. You're selling $1 million, $2 million. I mean, houses are just so darn expensive now. You know, personally, would I ever sell a house over $1 million bone empty? No, I would stage it every single time, because I know I'm going to make my money back times 2, 3 times, you know, what that staging cost. So staging can really help. It's important to get a good stager. A lot of times people go, oh, but I'm such a good designer. I don't know, guys. Look, everybody has their own personal taste. There are some homes you walk into where you're like, this is amazing. But, you know, unless you're really an interior designer, sometimes staging can help you guys get a better price. The other thing is if you're not staging, we already talked about removing clutter, but the other thing is to think about, like, do an analysis of your house as if it wasn't your house, okay? And be brutal. Think of everything that catches your eye that's negative and fix it. You know, if you have an area where you're like, what is the point of this area? Give it some level of purpose. Like, really go through your house critically. The biggest mistake sellers make is they just assume their house is perfect and worth $1 billion. They don't look at it as a critical home buyer. And there's a lot of markets right now where home buyers have choices. So you want the home buyer to walk into your house and fall in love, period. Okay? So very important. And then also important, before you guys sell your house, make sure you get pre-approved for your next one. You don't want to get into contract on selling your house, then call me and I'm like, oh, you don't qualify. Because that's terrible, and that does happen. And once you're in contract to sell your house, just because you don't qualify to buy another one isn't a reason to break that contract in many cases. So definitely, before you list that house, before you sign the agreement with the listing agent to represent your house, make sure you get fully underwritten and pre-approved for your next house. Okay? Now, if you're gonna rent for a while or something, it's still good to call and make sure your game plan makes sense, because the last thing you wanna do is sell that house and then find out for some reason that it's gonna take you years to buy another one. So definitely make sure you're reaching out to your lender. If you guys didn't like your lender, or if you wanna work with me, I'm happy to work with you guys. I'm licensed in 48 states. We do a lot of planning about this. You know, a lot of people sell their house and we close on their new house the next day or the same day. It's very common. It's called a contingent sale. Easy peasy. So those are the big things. I know I went harder on presentation of your house, but that's because it's so important right now. And being realistic about the sales price based on comparable sales, and making sure that who you're paying to represent your house is going to represent your house to the best. And then, of course, making sure that you get pre-approved before you list that house so that you know you can buy another house, you know how much you have to make off the sale of your house, all those financial details that are going to make this whole thing a reality. So as always, thanks for watching, guys. Questions, comments, feedback, drop it in the comments.